SICARRI.
We are the children of the one Yahweh.
The chosen.
Ye are the chosen of the one Yahweh. And he has given his love to us. Now everything belongs to us.
I'm only half Puerto Rican. You only have, what's your father's lineage? He's Puerto Rican. He's Puerto Rican also? Alright.
He's asking if it's indigenous.
Yeah, is it indigenous? Like, you're not sure? We'll give him a phone. Alright, because what we're doing, we're telling the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? That you're God's chosen people. Now, this why I asked, depending on who your father is, you are who your father is. So our lineage stems from our father. But, you know, and you said that your lineage comes from the conquistadors, right? So the conquistadors, we know what they did to the natives, right? The Central Americans, right? Southern and South Central and South Americans, right? What they did to those people, right?
It's the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 9.
All right, go ahead.
If any man have an ear, let him hear.
All right, go ahead.
He that leadeth into captivity
Right.
shall go into captivity.
So the conquistadors, right? When they, you know, they sailed their ships all the way over here, and they were like, oh look what they got. They got all this stuff. Let's go conquer them, right? So, and they put those indigenous people of that specific land, of those specific land, into captivity, right? Slavery, murder. You know what I'm saying? Rape, exactly. Rape, rob, murder. You know what I'm saying? These people did these things. So what it's saying is, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. So it's literally saying, if they put people into captivity, they will go into captivity also, right? As a people.
He that killeth with the sword,
right,
must be killed with the sword.
So if you kill somebody with the sword, you got to be killed also.
By the sword of God.
Exactly. Right?
Here is the patience and the faith of the saints.
So what we're basically saying is that now it's not just the conquistadors, because the conquistadors also with the British, the French, the so-called white, yeah, the Portuguese also,
Dutch.
right?
The Dutch.
Yeah, they would be all within the same pot, right? Because they came over. We know about the transatlantic slave trade. You know what I'm saying? We know about all these nations going to other places and getting slaves, murdering. What the so-called white man did to the Native Americans. You know what I'm saying? All of this is literally going to happen to them, right? So, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I have something for the Ephraim. But I also got Isaiah if you want to continue.
What's your guys' objective?
We're out here to tell the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans that they're God's chosen people, that they're Israelites according to the Bible, that we have to repent and be converted and keep the faith in the Son that died for us, right? So,
All right.
Yes.
This is the book of Romans, chapter 9,
Right.
verse 4. Who are Israelites,
Right. These people are Israelites, right? This pertains to only Israel, right? Go ahead.
to whom pertaineth the adoption,
Right, the adoption,
and the glory, and the covenants,
and the covenants, right? Go ahead.
and the giving of the law,
The giving of the law, the Israelites were given the law, right? Go ahead.
and the service of God.
And the service of God, right? The Most High, He chose specific people above all people that are on the face of the earth, right? Go ahead.
And the promises,
And the promises, right? Because He was just going back to what the Most High promised Abraham, right? He would be a father of many nations, right? Kings, right? Go ahead.
whose are the fathers,
Right?
and of whom concerning the flesh
Right.
Christ came.
Right now, concerning the flesh that Christ came. Now, we know that Christ is an Israelite, right? He was of the tribe of Judah, right? So this is, that is a very small dog. So this is talking about the children of Israel. This is talking about Christ coming for the children of Israel, right? For remission of sins, right? Which are the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, according to the Western Hemisphere, because this is where we're at right now. Now we know that Israel in the whole is scattered abroad in the four corners of the earth. But this is where we're at. That was it. Okay, so everything that was spoken about right there is pertaining to the Israelites and the Israelites only.
What about white people?
What about white people? Well, we just talked about
Just ripped about white people.
Yeah. Okay. Now, talking about white people right now, we stem from Jacob, right? Which he birthed the Israelites, right? He had 12 sons, right? Let me get Genesis 25, right? So, the Israelites they come from Jacob, right? Now the Edomites come from the so-called white man, right? And his you know.
Is he asking who the white people are, or like
No,
what happens to white people?
he's talking about like what.
So is it like the objective, like who's God's chosen people? Like,
Well, God hasn't chosen people, right? But
are all people God's chosen people?
no, God doesn't have a choice. Like God doesn't.
God doesn't love all people.
No, let me get.
Go back to
Okay, go back to that. Because like I was gonna bring out, there was Esau and Jacob. Now these are twins that were birthed from the same woman, but one was chosen, one wasn't. But it's gonna specify.
You want me to go straight to 13? All right. This is the book of Romans, chapter 9, starting from verse 10. And not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived by one, even by our father Isaac,
Right, go ahead.
for the children being not yet born, neither having done any good.
Right, so these are specifying. It's talking about Sarah, right? No, Rebecca Stock. Rebecca, which is our forefather, she was foremother. This is our foremother, right? She had twins in her womb, right? Now it's specifying who's being chosen and who's not, right?
For the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil,
Right?
that the purpose of God according to election might stand.
Right, so before they were even born, before they could do any type of evil, mischief, good, bad, whatever, right? There was a chosen amongst the two, right? Right? Go ahead.
Not of works, but him that calleth.
Not of works, but him that calleth, right? This is the Most High. He called one of them to be his own, right? Go ahead.
It was said unto her,
Right.
the elder shall serve the younger,
The elder shall serve the younger, right? Go ahead.
as it is written,
Uh-huh.
Jacob have I loved,
Right?
but Esau have I hated.
So you ask, does God love everybody? So that literally says, we can go back, that's so it's literally saying, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. Now, he's literally saying that he loved Jacob, right, and hated Esau. Now, Jacob was the younger brother.
I got Genesis. All right, this is the book of Genesis, chapter 25. I'm going to start at 21. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren.
Right,
And the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived.
right,
And the children struggled together within her.
right. So these are the children, right, the twins, right, okay,
And she said, if it be so, why am I thus?
right.
And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb.
Right, two nations, right? These are literally two separate. What's that?
I was gonna pull my mouth out.
Oh, okay. These are literally two separate nations, right? Two go ahead.
And 2 manner of people
Right, two manner of people, right? Different people, right? Go ahead.
shall be separated from thy bowels.
Right, go ahead.
And the one people shall be stronger than the other people.
Right,
And the elder shall serve the younger.
right.
And when
So it's like, now this is what we read in Romans, right? So it's being specific about who he's talking about, right? This is basically Jacob and Esau, right? It's specifying, right? Because when it says as it is written, it's going back into what they call the Old Testament, right? Go ahead.
and when her days to be delivered were fulfilled,
Right?
behold, there were twins in her womb.
Right, go ahead.
And the first came out red,
And the first came out red, right? The head?
All over like in a hairy garment.
All over like a hairy garment. So, it's yeah.
And they called his name Esau.
They called his name Esau, which literally means wasted away, right? So we know, right? These people were of darker skinned people, because that word Esau, it literally pertains to what he came out as. He came out different, right? So it specified
Melanin.
So I have a question. So basically in the New Testament where it says, when they're telling the parable about basically like, oh, go and get my people and tell them that there's a wedding.
Okay.
But they didn't want to listen. So go and get anybody who's willing to listen.
that will
The
listen.
Gentile. So what about Gentiles? Where does that fit?
well, that is speaking on.
Let me take that.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. Let's go to what you're talking about. You know where that's at? Oh, fuck.
No.
The
Oh yeah. I got you.
Oh yeah, it's from Stephanie. No. Oh yeah, it's from
We're both from the East Coast.
East Coast?
Yeah.
What
Where are you
part?
from?
I'm from Colorado. I moved out here. I live out here in Arizona now.
And you?
Tucson.
Tucson?
Yeah.
You guys go to the same church or something?
Yeah, we were just hanging out with our girlfriends and stuff, just walking. We go to church not too far.
What kind of church?
Just
Baptist Holy.
what about you guys? What denomination like?
We just read and follow the Bible.
Matthew 22, and
Get to the point.
22 verse 9. Go ye therefore into the highways and as go ye therefore into the highways, and as many as ye shall find, bid to the marriage.
You said about people not listening.
Yeah, and then he says, you know, the people that I call basically, I'm just kind of paraphrasing right now.
Was it about like how they didn't have the wedding garments prepared or something like that? Was that a parable?
Yeah. This verse. Let's keep reading. So those servants went out into the highways and gathered together all as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests. Verse 11. And when the king came in to see the guests, he saw there a man which had not on a wedding garment. And he saith unto him, Friend, how comest thou in hither not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless.
Keep going.
That's good.
Read to 15.
Then said the king to the servants, Bid him hand and foot, and take him away, cast him into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Read on.
For many are called, but few are chosen.
So many are called, but few are chosen. Read verse 15 to see who he's talking to.
Then went the Pharisees.
So who?
The Pharisees.
That's not all of Israel. That's the Pharisees. Read.
And took counsel how they might entangle him in his talk.
The Pharisees were, you know who the Pharisees were, right? They were like the.
By the way, I don't identify as a church. We go by the Bible like you guys.
Okay.
I'm not like Christian or whatever. Every church is false. I know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. What is your? Oh, holiday. The Pharisees were like the beacon for Israel at that time. They were the ones that sat in Moses' seat. They were the ones that were dispensing the teachings of the law. But there were many Pharisees that were hypocrites. They would teach right things, but do wrong things. You agree?
Yeah.
So these are the people that can't come to the wedding. They're hypocrites. It's not Israel can't come. The wedding is for Israel. Pharisees don't make up the whole nation. Pharisees were only a
Where
small
did the
sect.
Gentiles come?
The Gentiles, the New Testament?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very good question. Let's go to, who was appointed to be sent to the Gentiles? Paul, right? So let's go to, what's Paul's first letter?
Acts.
Acts was,
No, I think it's Romans.
Acts was, Romans. Paul is in Acts, but Luke wrote it. Yeah.
Romans 1, verse 7. To all that be in Rome, the love of God calleth the saints
for this all citizens of Rome. What read who was to?
To all that be in Rome, beloved of God.
To all that be in Rome who are beloved of God. Throughout the Bible, you see that the Israelites are beloved of God. Read.
Called to be saints.
Called to be saints. It's also another identifier. Who were called saints? The Israelites. Let's prove that.
Book of Psalms 148, verse 14. He also exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel.
So his people, the saints, the children of Israel. These are all synonymous terms. When it says saints, it's talking about Israel. But I understand that might be confusing because why would we be saying Jews and Gentiles? You guys understand that Jew does not encompass the entire nation. You know where the term Jew comes from? The term Jew comes from the kingdom of Judah. After King Solomon, what happened? The kingdom split. We had a kingdom of 12 tribes. All 12 tribes, one king, one kingdom. After Solomon died, Rehoboam was up next, Solomon's son. Many people preferred an Ephraimite named Jeroboam, who was never supposed to be king, but they wanted him to be king, so they appointed him their king, and now we had a split kingdom. The kingdom to the south, the kingdom of Judah. The kingdom to the north, the kingdom of Israel. The kingdom to the north fell off into idolatry, went into several captivities, became assimilated into these other cultures and called themselves after these other people's names, served these other people's gods, whereas the southern kingdom, the kingdom of Judah, stayed with the Most High God, stayed keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. Eventually, idolatry crept in too, but we always kept our identity. And thus we're known as the Jews, those from the kingdom of Judah. That's only 3 tribes. That's only 3 tribes and a remnant from certain other tribes, but predominantly it's just 3 tribes. So by the time you get to the events of the New Testament, these other people that are flesh and blood Israelites aren't calling themselves Israelites, aren't speaking the language, aren't serving the same God. It's just like today where people say like, oh, it doesn't matter if I'm black and you're white, he's Chinese, we're all just Americans. The Greeks started that. The Greeks started that we're all gonna just call ourselves one thing. The Romans kind of continued it, but not as strict. The Romans kind of continued it, but not as strict because the Greeks were enforcing this under pain of death. During the time of the Grecian rule, they made it illegal to call yourself a Jew or anything other than a Greek. If you lived in a Greek province and you didn't refer to yourself as a Greek, they'd kill you. So that being ingrained in the people for so long, it continued on even after it wasn't under the threat of death. You got that?
This is Maccabees 6 and verse 6. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days, ancient feasts, or to profess himself and all to be a Jew.
So at this point in time, we weren't allowed to call ourselves Israelites, Jews. We weren't allowed to circumcise our children. We weren't allowed to have the book of the law. If they caught us with Torah scrolls, they'd burn them and kill us. And it even got to the point where they would send troops door to door and force people to eat pork or die because they knew we wouldn't touch pork. So if we refused the pork, they'd say, you're not following our king's order. If you're a Greek, it's no problem to eat pork, right? But if you're still calling yourself an Israelite or a Jew, that's when you would abstain from the pork. So many people died because they wouldn't eat the pork. Other people decided not to die and gave up their God to go follow after these other customs, even after the falling away of Jewish kings, which is why you get Hellenized Jews, why you get Israelites that were completely engulfed in Greek culture as well as other cultures. But it really started predominantly with the Greeks. Does that make sense?
I think I kind of lost you a little bit, but
Where did I don't want to be confused.
well, I don't know because we're kind of talking about like Gentiles, and Jews. So I'm just curious, like, where did Gentiles fit in here?
So the word Gentile, right? It just means
Anybody that's not Jew, right?
Well, no, because even in the Bible it refers to Jews as Gentiles as well. Sometimes it just means nation.
Okay, so are you basically saying that if you're white, you're like as good as?
That's kind of an oversimplification, but sure, yeah, pretty much. It's not about what you look like, right? Because.
But doesn't it say it's about your heart? So if your heart, like if you're following Christ, like
how does one follow Christ?
the Bible says, by the Bible.
So we'd have to keep
You have to have
faith.
faith, basically. If you have faith, you know.
Yeah, we'd have to have faith in Christ. But he came for certain people to do. Let's just pretend we lived a long time ago, right? And we're Jews, right? And I'm just gonna go off the information that you guys gave me because you can only know so much about your history. For all I know, you know, you're both the Israelites, neither of you are the Israelites. I'm gonna go based on what you told me. You told me that you were from the east to north, which leads me to believe that you're being Edomite. So we're just gonna go with that. You told me that you're Puerto Rican, which would lead me to believe that you're on the top of Ephraim, which would make you my brothers in the Lord, right? So we're just gonna go with that. You have something? Give me that in a second, right? So if we were separated by the kingdom split and you went to go live with his people and started calling yourself after his people and started speaking his people's language and following his people's God, we would refer to you just like you would refer to him. Even though flesh and blood, you are us. But if you chose to turn your back on the Most High God, we just counted you as one of them. Right? That's how we would address it. But the Most High God would still know that you're his chosen people. You're just going off and doing the wrong things. So then that's why we would call you Gentiles.
So what's the point of apostles and going and spreading the gospel?
What's the point of spreading the gospel?
Yeah, like if you're just a certain chosen people.
If we're Jews, right, and you're the Israelite foreigner or the Gentile, right? And I'm being very specific in the way I'm using the word Gentile, because Gentile could also apply. It actually rightfully would apply to him. We're kind of using it colloquially with you because you're not actually one of his people. You're one of ours, which has gone off with his people. It's just an example, right? If we're the Jews and we're saying, well, we stayed with our God, we keep the commandments as it was given to us. You chose to go be with him, so your lot is with him. The good news, or the gospel, is that your lot actually doesn't have to be with these other people. Just because we might not accept you doesn't mean God hasn't accepted you, because he chose you the same time he chose us. The promises were given to our father Abraham. He had a chosen seed, Isaac. He had a chosen seed, Jacob. Jacob had us. We're all of the chosen seed, even if you decided to go off. Now, just because you're an Israelite doesn't mean that you automatically make it. But the good news is, you have a chance. I'm not saying me and him, but I'm saying take this back a few thousand years. We might have been telling you, you can't make it. The good news is, you actually can. There were what you call a lot of gatekeeping going on, especially with the Pharisees.
So you're saying I can't.
So what?
Assuming that you're an Edomite. If you're actually an Edomite, no, you can't.
I can't make it to the kingdom of heaven.
You can't inherit the kingdom of
I
heaven.
can't inherit.
I'm not saying that you can't see it, but you wouldn't be partaking in that glory. So you were about to say something?
Yeah, like I'm just kind of confused because like it's kind of like going against everything that I know and I've been taught. Because like I don't know, I've never heard it this way before. It kind of seems like twisted in a certain way. But like, what's the whole point of like if you believe, then you'll be saved?
What's the point of if you believe?
Yeah, like how would that come in? Basically, John 3:16. It's like, well,
Let's
believe.
First, I want him to read what he was holding, and then we're gonna go straight to John 3:16.
And then we gotta go here in a minute. So
Oh, no problem.
This is Acts 5 and 29. And Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men.
We have to obey God rather than men. So God gave us commandments. He also gave us prophecies. He also told us what was going to happen. All these things always pertain to Israel. Whether or not, because at this time people were trying to take it away from Israel. Ishmaelites were trying to say, well, our father is Abraham too, but Ishmael wasn't chosen. Edomites were trying to do the same thing with Herod. Herod would say, well, my mom's a Jewess. It's according to your father. Other people were trying to take hold of this thing. But we ought to obey God rather than men. Read.
God of our fathers raised up Jesus, whom ye slew, which ye slew and hanged on a tree.
Right.
Him hath God exalted with his right hand, to be a prince and a savior.
Unto who?
For to give repentance to Israel.
To who?
Israel.
To give repentance to Israel, read,
And forgiveness of sin.
and forgiveness of sins. Christ's whole mission was to bring back the family of Israel together, so we wouldn't be scattered into two separate groups. Now, let's go to John 3:16.
John 3:16. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life.
So when you see that word world, that's what's making you think that this is all encompassing, right?
Yeah, I guess, you know, but it doesn't make sense. Like,
It doesn't make sense if you think there's only one world. Do you believe that there's only one world?
I believe there's only one living world, like the earth. Like, I believe that there's.
I understand what you're saying. The word world in this verse is not referring to the planet Earth. It's talking about an apt and harmonious government, right? A unified people. And we're going to prove that.
It's Hebrews 1 and verse 2. Hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he has appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds.
He made the what?
The worlds.
Plural. He made the worlds. Now let's show that Israel is known as a world. Give me, we go Isaiah 45-17.
Yeah. Isaiah 45 verse 17. But Israel shall be saved in the Lord.
Israel shall be saved in the Lord. This is a prophecy. Go ahead.
With an everlasting salvation.
Read on.
Ye shall not be ashamed nor confounded.
So Israel's going to be saved. Israel will not be ashamed or confounded. And what do we call Israel? Read that again.
World without end.
Israel is the world without it. So God so loved the world of Israel. Because if we take that and say that's not what it means, and it does apply to everybody, now all the times where it said he hated Esau doesn't make sense. All the times that it said that the Canaanites couldn't enter the congregation, the Moabites and the Ammonites would never be able to come near unto him, all these prohibitions against people specifically never being allowed to come near to him, we have to throw all that out. We have to throw out a lot of the Bible to make that make sense. But if we see that Israel is being called the world, we also see that there are several worlds, or plural, multiple worlds, and God so loved the world the whole time it's been talking about Israel. That's the world that it's talking about. And when we read John 3 in context, I know you guys got to go, but we'll just read up 2 verses.
Yeah, sorry.
Start at 14.
John 3 and 14. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness.
So the same way Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness. You guys are familiar with that story?
Yeah.
Where the Israelites were being bitten by the snakes and they looked on the brazen serpent. Read.
Even so must the Son of Man be lifted up.
Even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. This is analogous to what happened before. That was what they call a Christophany. So that serpent on the pole represented Christ. And who did the serpent heal? The Israelites. The Israelites that went off, did the wrong thing. They spoke against Moses. They spoke against God. God sent the serpents to bite them. They said, look, we messed up. I'm sorry. Tell God we're sorry. Moses went to God. God said, make this thing, whoever looks on this will be healed. It's the same thing throughout the whole time. He's been telling us to keep his commandments. Israel kept sinning. Israel kept going off into idolatry. Israel kept going against God. And now he's giving us a chance to come back through Christ. The same way he gave us a chance to come back by looking on the serpent that Moses made in the first place. So contextually, it's always been about Israel. It's always been about Israel. And I know you guys said you guys got to meet up with your girlfriends. I just want to throw this out here. I'm not going to beat you over the head with the law, but according to the Bible, if you lay down with those women, they are your wives. So I would encourage y'all to not throw them away because God hates divorce. Right? I'm not saying that you slept with them. I'm not saying that you didn't. I'm not asking that's your personal business. But if you did, that is literally marriage according to the Most High. They didn't have courthouses back in the day. Adam didn't sign papers. He laid with Eve. Eve was his wife. So on and so forth. This is all throughout the scriptures. So treat those women right, teach them right, but also gotta, stay in the scriptures and study and learn. Understand?
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Oh, no problem at all. No
Yeah,
problem.
you guys have a good night. Be safe.
Take care.
Yeah.
You about to get some?
sex
about marriage. I mean, you could go to Isaac and his mother's tent.
Yeah, but I was gonna go to
Jacob and Leah. But yeah, man, I mean, that's just really what it comes down to, is our people have been lied to for so long that it doesn't make sense to them to hear this is all about Israel, because they say, oh, what about the Jews and the Gentiles? Because our people have been lied to. They believe that Jews means all of Israel and Gentile means just anybody else. It's not the case. That's not the case. Israelites can be called Gentiles too. Not all Israelites were known as Jews. You got what you were looking for?
Yeah, it's Genesis 38, verse 2, pertaining to sexless marriage in the NLT. There he saw a Canaanite woman, the daughter of Shua, and he married her when he slept with her.
You see that? And he married her when he slept with her. Sex is the consummation of marriage. This is true in the Bible. It's even true in the law of the land that everybody loves to mention so much. It is true in the law of the land. If you have a ceremony, go to the courthouse, sign the papers, do all the documentation, and never lay with that woman, that marriage will be annulled. That's not a divorce. It means it never happened. It never happened. You documented it on paper and you didn't follow through with it. If you did not lay with that woman, you did not marry her. If you laid with her, you married her. And any woman you having sex with, that's your woman, that's your wife. You can't throw her away to go be with somebody else. All right? Unless, of course, she commit fornication, which Yahushua spoke of. What is that, Matthew 5?
Matthew 5, 30 and 31. It hath been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement. But I say unto you that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving her the cause of fornication.
Saving for the cause of fornication. If it's not for fornication and you put her away, give her a bill of divorce, read.
Causeth her to commit adultery.
Now you're causing her to commit adultery because really she's still with you. You might say she's not with you. She might believe she's not with you. But she's with you. Read.
And whosoever shall marry her, that is divorced, committeth adultery.
And if you put her away unlawfully for something other than fornication, you say, here's your bill of divorce, I'm not with you anymore, go be free. The next man that sleep with her is now an adulterer too. And this is the kind of thing, this is the kind of wickedness that our people be so engulfed in and involved in, that has us still at the bottom of society, that has us held back from getting the promises that we were promised, because we just continually and habitually break God's laws, man. We have to come up out of that and stop letting these damn devils tell you that the law doesn't matter. Because when you ask a Christian, how do I become saved? What do they always say? You just gotta believe. You just gotta believe. But what does it mean to believe? It's not simply, give me the devil. Yeah. James 2:19. Hey, how you sisters doing today? I'm fine, thank you for asking. What's your ethnicity? Black and white? What's your dad? Black. Your dad's black? Can my brother give you a flyer real quick? I'll give you some good information. No problem. Just know that the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are God's chosen people. You're above everybody else on the face of the earth because God made you that way.